It's the Best Lifing Show!
This podcast is your ultimate guide to holistic health and wellness.
Our team of Best Lifers shared their stories.
Wait. What is this Best Lifing?
We transform your life from ordinary
to extraordinary.
And help you live your dreams.
So now,
let's start Best Lifing!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Best Lifing Show on Be Unique. My name is Julia Brodska and I'm the international best-selling author of the book Best Lifing. I've got here with me today one of our amazing Best Lifers. Her name is Emily Saunders and she's the yoga guru for our organization. Hello, Emily.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Fantastic. Welcome to the show. So tell us, what are we talking about today?
So today we are going to have a little conversation about how you can discover your self-worth by applying the principles that are correlated with our 7 different areas of life.
Perfect. Awesome. I'm super excited about it. But before we get into all of that, let's do a little bit of an introduction for anyone who doesn't know us and what Best Lifing is all about. So, as I said, my name is Julia Brodska, and my journey started about 10 years ago when I was 30 pounds heavier than I am today, plus in about $80,000 worth of debt at the time. And just in general, I was super unfulfilled and unsatisfied with what, my life was at that current point in time. Didn't really have great friendships and relationships. I was in a bit of an abusive relationship at the time. And just overall, I just felt like I wasn't going anywhere and it really wasn't where I wanted to be. And so one day I had just had enough. And I started to create a plan of how I was going to change my life. This plan obviously included many things like exercising and paying off all my debt. But in doing that, I found that, almost all of the problems that I had and still continue to even have today always seem to fall into one of 7 areas. And that's kind of where Best Lifing came about. So the 7 areas are social, physical, spiritual, financial, intellectual, relational, and vocational. And the goal is to create fulfillment in each of those 7 areas. So we start by figuring out where you're at versus where you want to be, and then creating a plan to help you get there. And the way we work with customers is through the content that we teach online, as well as one-on-one sessions, and then the different experts that we have on our team, depending on which area of life you would personally want to focus on, because all of our work is really catered towards the individual. So we've also got Emily obviously here with us today, our yoga guru, and then we've also got a nutritionist, personal trainer, mindset coach, journaling, gratitude expert, and we're starting to try out a bit of hypnosis for limiting beliefs as well. So that's just a little bit of the work that we do. And then we also do a bit of work with businesses as well. So helping frontline employees create that same fulfillment in the 7 areas of life, because obviously when you've got happy employees who have, those areas together and collected, they're going to be happier employees and better towards your customers, I guess, and just more fulfilled in general in the workplace. So it's a brief little rundown of what we do here at Best Lifing. Emily, do you want to do a little bit of an introduction to yourself for the audience?
Sure, I'd love to. So my journey started when I was in college. I was being a typical college student, had no idea what I wanted to do. I couldn't pick a major for the life of me. And I think this all just stemmed from the fact that I really just didn't know what I wanted for my future. I was lost and unaware and uninspired by a lot of things. Growing up, I was a cheerleader, And when I started college, I really wanted to do something that would not only like maintain my flexibility, but something just physical. I wanted another form of physical exercise for myself. I tried a lot of things. I tried spinning, I tried kickboxing. Kickboxing's pretty fun. But I ended up finding yoga, and I absolutely fell head over heels in love with it. There's so many different sides of it that I just find so beautiful, because yoga is a practice that's not only physical, but it's also mental. So it's always going to help every single side of you.
That's an awesome story. Thanks so much for sharing, Emily. All right. So I guess the first place to start would be to define self-worth. So in your opinion, what do you think self-worth is?
So to me, essentially, self-worth is the essence of an individual's subjective evaluation of their own worth. So in other words, it's essentially it's how we look at ourselves. It's your self-esteem, pretty much it's how you believe in yourself as well as your emotional states, such as triumph, despair, pride, and shame. Self-worth is at the core of our very selves. Our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all tied into how we view our worthiness and value ourselves as human beings.
That's so true, Emily. I couldn't agree more. Do you have any examples of how people gauge their self-worth?
So there are general ways that people, gauge their self-worth. One of them being appearance. Unfortunately, a lot of people value this one more than anything. It's measured by a number on a scale, and I think, Julia, you can relate to this.
For sure, absolutely. The clothes or the size that we wear or the kind of attention that we receive from others has definitely impacted me in the past before and my self-worth.
Yeah, no, I could totally relate. I had a problem where I couldn't gain weight for years and I didn't understand why. Everyone called me a twig. And although everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky to be so skinny, at the same time, it's a little bit of an insecurity and people don't necessarily realize that. So going on, another way that we gauge our self-worth is basing it on our net worth. So this can mean your income, your material possessions, financial assets, or a combination of all of them. Net worth is definitely something that can affect someone's self-worth.
Absolutely. Definitely when I was in a lot of debt, my self-worth was not very high when the banks are calling me and chasing me for money and, my cards are declining, stuff like that. Very low self-worth then. Another one I think that had a big impact in my life and I think is very important and many people base their self-worth on is the people that you know or your social circle. So some people judge their own value and the value of other people by their status and, what important or influential people they know. Or another one could be what you do or your career. And so often we judge other people and ourselves by what they do. So for example, a stockbroker is often, considered to be more successful, more valuable than, for example, a janitor or something, or a teacher. And this type of judgment on, ourselves and others can be really detrimental to, yourself and the people around you, judging people based on what they do.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And there's one more, isn't there, Emily?
Yes. So the last way that people gauge their self-worth is based on what they achieve. We frequently use achievements to determine someone's worth, whether it's our own worth or if it's someone else's. This could be an example of how successful you are in business. Our scores on the SATs or a placement in a marathon or other athletic challenge.
Yeah, that's so true. And another thing that we do is we actually put down our self-worth based on what other people are doing as well, right? So we look at other people's accomplishments and think, oh, she's so great and she's got so many followers on Instagram, for example. But we didn't really look at all the years that have been put in to get there and all the work that's been put in to achieve that result. And we start to measure ourselves from a different place, but against the result that other person might be displaying. And it's really funny because this is completely pointless to do because everybody starts at the beginning. Everybody has once been in that place. So it's very important to never compare yourself to other people and what their current results are if you're starting out, or you're in a different place compared to them. It is, however, good to look up to people and, ask for advice and how you can be better if they're displaying something that you potentially may want to achieve as well. Cool. All right, so let's just make really clear some things that do not determine your self-worth. What are some of those, Emily?
Okay, so a few of them, starting with your to-do list. Achieving goals is great, and it feels wonderful to, cross things off your to-do list, right? But it doesn't have a direct relationship with your worth as a human, and I think that we need to realize this. Another way that does not determine your self-worth is your job. Listen, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you do it well and that it makes you happy and it fulfills you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yes. Another really big thing, especially now with our societal norms, that does not determine your self-worth is your social media following. That number on that screen that determines how many people follow you does not make more or less worthy than anyone else. We're all human beings. And I think that's something that at the end of the day, we all need to realize. Another factor that does not determine your self-worth is your age.
For sure.
Yeah, so why do you think this is the case, Julia?
Well, in truth, you're never too young or too old to do anything. Your age is simply a number and it doesn't factor in your value as a human being. So I've definitely had a lot of experience with this and even, going through it myself when I was in the corporate world, a bit younger. I always felt like people won't take me seriously. I've even actually heard our fitness trainer say it before. He's scared, or he used to be scared, to tell people how old he was, because people wouldn't think that he's, a good enough trainer because he's too young to be a trainer. And we see so many people give up on things or not live to their full potential because they allow their age to affect them. There's just no such thing as ever too young or ever too old. Like, Tiger Woods was 3 years old when he shot 48 for 9 holes in his hometown golf course in Cypress, California. And on the other side of that spectrum, Ichijiro Araya was 100 years old when he climbed Mount Fuji. So don't ever say that you're too young or too old. Don't limit yourself like that. Whether you're 16 or 60, the rest of your life is ahead of you. You can't change one moment of your past, but you can change your whole future, and you want to do that right now.
So yeah, Julia, I totally agree with you on that. Another thing that doesn't determine your self-worth is other people. It doesn't matter what other people think or what other people have done or accomplished, but you need to realize that your personal satisfaction and your personal fulfillment are so much more important than what other people are thinking, saying, or doing. A few other things that don't determine your self-worth, just to name them off. We have the number of friends you have, or your relationship status. The amount of money you have in the bank does not determine your self-worth. Your likes, like I mentioned before, that little number on the page on social media does not determine your self-worth. The only thing that can determine your self-worth is yourself. So let's discuss a little bit about how we could build up our self-worth.
Yes, that's a great place to start. So the first step in building self-worth is to stop comparing yourself to others, right? and you want to evaluate your every move. So in other words, you need to challenge your critical inner voices and be listening for those and, really taking note of what they're saying. By challenging your own critical inner voice and, by stopping to compare yourself to others, you can begin to get a feeling for your own self-worth. By pursuing activities that are meaningful to you and, acting in line with your personal beliefs, you can develop your sense of yourself as a worthwhile person in the world even further. Challenge the inner critic and begin to see yourself for who you really are, rather than taking on this negative point of view about ourselves. We can differentiate from the ways that we're seen in our family of origins and begin to understand and appreciate our own feelings, thoughts, desires, and values. We don't have to associate with our labels, whether they're true or they're not. Whether the past has taught us to believe a certain thing, those beliefs can always be changed, and we don't have to associate with ourselves anymore with them if we don't want to. We can put on any new label at any moment and make that shift and make that change whenever we want to do it, as often as we like to. So Emily, what are your thoughts on that? Or what are some other ways that we can improve our self-worth?
So, improving our self-worth is taking time to focus on yourself. So there's a couple of different things that you could do to focus on yourself, right? You could eat healthy, you could exercise, you could minimize your alcohol intake. What about get a massage?
Oh, I love that one.
I love massages, right?
We do them at least once a month at Best Lifing.
Yes, we actually do. You could even write in a journal.
What would you write in that journal?
My goals. I think I'd write my goals down.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. Because writing down your goals, it sort of like makes it, set in stone kind of thing. There's something it does to you psychologically.
It makes it tangible, right?
For sure. Yeah. And another thing, we'll talk a bit more about this later, but writing in your journal, writing the things that you learn. Like I used to go to a seminar, for example, and then come home and write things that I learned from that day. Or, even when you go through a breakup, like what am I learning today? How have I grown stronger? And really journaling all of that. I love journaling.
You can grab that journal and write down all your affirmations. That's really good for you. Or you can even say your affirmations to yourself in the mirror. There's so many different things that you could do to better yourself. What are some other ones that you can think of, Julia?
You could ask for help. I think a lot of us have a bit of an insecurity around asking for help sometimes. There's definitely nothing wrong with asking for help, whether it's, help maybe from a psychiatrist, to do some of the mental work, or it could just be even asking for help like, hey, can you please help me do this or understand this for someone that maybe you look up to. Some other ones that we definitely do daily is meditate, listen to your favorite music. That's an easy one to shift your vibe nice and quickly if something's not feeling the best. Or you treat yourself to something that you love to do, take a day out, go paddle boarding, banana boating, have a bit of fun like we did the other day. It's always cool to learn something new because that really gets you into the present moment. Full focus needs your concentration. And you could also just do things that are going to take you out of your comfort zone. That's how you're going to grow. That's how you're going to learn. And that's how you're going to really build that confidence and that self-worth. Be confident in your own thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Stop worrying so much what people think. Regardless, right? People are going to have an opinion of you. You have no control of what they think, and nor do you even need to. Some people are going to like you, some people are not, and what they think is really none of your business. So just keep it moving and do what makes you happy, and be confident. Your opinions, your thoughts, and your feelings are relevant, and they do matter if they matter to you. And then just practice the art of letting go. The past is the past, as we've said before. There's no point of reliving it. There's no point of bitching about it and telling the story. There's no need to hang on to any of those things. They don't define you, and you don't need to associate with yourself with them. Something may have happened. It's taught you a lesson, but right now in this moment, as Eckhart Tolle would say, there can never be anything ever wrong or missing. In the moment, in the present moment, nothing is ever wrong or missing. Eckhart Tolle, by the way, he wrote The Power of Now. He's one of my favorite authors. All right, let's move on a little bit more to the 7 areas of life. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what are the 7 areas of life, right? That's just pretty much the 7 categories that we believe that everything in your life has to fall into. So as we said before, we've got social, physical, spiritual, financial, intellectual, relational, and vocational. That's the 7 areas. And what we want to do is create fulfillment in each of those areas. And you've got to be ready to create that fulfillment because you've got to really get comfortable with like digging deep with yourself, right, Emily? You got to really have a look.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, like have a look at who you are and those things that you really don't like about yourself. So let's talk about how you can discover your self-worth by applying each of those 7 areas. And, we'll start with the physical one. So you want to talk about the physical one a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to physical, first you want to completely free yourself from your body. For example, if your self-worth and weight are shackled to each other, sort of like you might be shackled to your scale, you're going to be able to release these bonds. So even if you don't feel fabulous about your body, here are some tips that may help. There's no reason you shouldn't recognize your non-physical attributes and accomplishments, right? So ask yourself, what do you love most about your character, or your personality, and your principles? Who are you? Are you generous? Are you smart? Are you witty? Are you sweet? Are you thoughtful? Are you a friend that everyone can count on? Do you volunteer? What about yourself makes you happy?
That's some really great questions. I definitely think that asking yourself those and really looking into who you are as a person is definitely the first step. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're still iffy or if you feel like you need a jump start, then you can create a daily list of affirmations. It's something that I love to do every morning. When I wake up, I like to lay in bed and just remind myself of all the awesomeness that is Emily.
I love it. Awesomeness that is Emily, for sure. And how would you write this list?
So I start by saying I am worthy. I start by saying I am loved, and I start by saying I am capable. Those 3 things just really remind me of how confident I am, and it just is a great jumpstart for my day. It always starts it off on the right beat.
I love that. One thing I also like to do is maybe like write down 5 things that you've done today that you can give yourself credit for, because we're so good at criticizing ourselves and I didn't get enough done on my to-do list, or I didn't do this well enough, or I wish I had more time for this. But how often, honestly, do we sit down and actually go, here's like 5 things I did really, really exceptionally, and I'm really proud of myself for getting that done. Who cares if you didn't get everything done? There's always time tomorrow. So then you just have to think about these actions and relate that to the type of person that you are, because that's going to help you build up some actual things that are true to what a great person you are, and essentially in turn it's going to build up your self-worth.
So the next area of life, relational, Julia, how do you think that coincides with your self-worth?
So this is one of my favorites, actually, because knowing your self-worth and holding yourself accountable for receiving it and being worthy of receiving it is a very important part of relationships, right? I'd even go as far to say that self-love is the key to finding true love. People can only love you to the extent that you love yourself. No one can love you more than you love yourself, because if you don't know how and you don't show people how, they simply can't possibly do it. And I wholeheartedly believe that sharing the joys and wonder of life with another person, just who lights you up and lights up your world, makes you smile, it's an absolutely priceless experience. There's really nothing like it, love, being loved by someone else. It's one of the greatest joys on earth, and something that every human being deserves to experience. And this could be love from your friends, love from your family, or your relationship as well. So it's definitely something to strive for. But self-worth plays such a big role in this, because it's really hard to find your happiness with another person, if you're in a relationship, for example, with the need to be filled up by somebody else. You know, you can't put that much responsibility on somebody. It's not their job, and it's not fair on them. And I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be applying for that. You got to love yourself. You've got to teach people your self-worth and how you would like them to treat you. So like being needy and insecure and trying to gain approval and self-worth from your partner, it puts a huge amount of pressure on them, and it's a major turn off, right? Like, you know, you don't want to have a partner that's
I agree.
always saying, can you tell me I'm beautiful? You want to surprise them with that, and you want to be, you know, a bit more spontaneous, I guess would be the word, right? Rather than needy.
Absolutely.
Like an outstanding love, it doesn't come from two half-filled people coming together, you know, to make one whole. Outstanding love comes from two whole people coming together to share and enhance their already full and beautiful lives. So an amazing relationship comes about when we own and appreciate who we are and completely accept the other person for who they are, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I totally agree with that.
And so loving and putting yourself first is not selfish. It's necessary. It's imperative to creating the wonderful love and life that we all desire. And let's get something straight. Loving yourself doesn't deplete the love tank. It actually fills it up, so we have even more love to give. So that's my whole spiel on my favorite, the relational area of life.
So the next area of life that I'm gonna delve into here is the intellectual area of life. So, you know, first we want to start off with the fact that we're forever growing and learning, you know, and the intellectual area of life is all about this. You know, feeding your brain with knowledge and information. And after all, you know, it's just another muscle of your body. It needs to be nourished and it needs to be exercised, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So in some ways, it may seem counterintuitive to have to learn to get to know yourself, right? Surely that should be a given, though, right? But
not necessarily.
No, not necessarily. Although, you know, while our experiences clearly help shape us into who, you know, the people we are today, obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean we know who we really are and what we're passionate about and what we want from life, right?
Yeah, for sure. One thing I also want to add to that is we're going to continue to change. You know, one day you might want one thing, and then the next day you either don't want that same thing anymore, or you might want something else. That's totally fine. We're going to continue to grow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, here are some things to consider. Realize that you don't have to justify your self-worth.
Absolutely. Like, who are you justifying it to anyway, right? You just have to say that you're worth it, and that means you are.
No, absolutely. You know, I used to think if I do this, and then I might be worthy of that. But, like, this thought is, like, it's actually completely entirely wrong, and it's destructive to your mind, and it just, like, makes false presumptions of a hierarchy of people's worthy.
Yeah, and it's totally unnecessary.
Yeah, no, the truth is like everyone's worthy of love and respect and kindness.
Every single person, regardless of who you are.
No, absolutely. Like we just need to make time to learn about ourselves. You know, journal your lessons. Just write down everything that you learn every single day.
Yeah, and you want to let go of your expectations too. This is probably one of the most important things that I did. It was so hard to let go of the idealized image of, you know, that I had to go to university and how my life had to be, and I have to, you know, get the house with the white picket fence and the kids. But once I was able to just let all that shit go, it was easier to accept things for what they really were without feeling like my whole world was crumbling down, you know, underneath me just because I didn't achieve a certain thing or I wasn't living life in a certain way that society or friends, family, mum expected me to. I just stopped justifying it and decided that this is who I am and this is what I want.
That's amazing. You're looking after yourself, right?
Exactly.
You know, when you're finding out that things are tough and you're questioning who you are and where you're going, the thing is, it's important to take some time out to practice a bit of self-care. I love self-care. You know,
Same.
for me, this usually means getting lost in a good novel, having a warm shower. I prefer a nice bubble bath, but
Yes.
you know, getting 8 hours of sleep is also very essential.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
after I take the time to practice things like this, my thoughts become less erratic. They become more calm. They become more rational. And, you know, and I'm more ready to face the things that are in front of me.
Yeah, and another point I want to add to this is you need to know that fitting in is overrated. Who cares about fitting in? I've learned that you're very lucky to have a few close friends, and that's all you really need.
Oh my gosh, I agree. I am so much more quality over quantity.
100%. I used to have 100 friends, or I think at my 21st birthday I had 150 people there, and I swear this year it's going to be me and my top 5, and we'll call it a day. That'll be plenty enough.
That sounds ideal, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, at school in particular, in regards to fitting in, it can, you know, sometimes seem like belonging to a group that's popular or whatever, make you feel like you belong. Like, that's the most important thing. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that true friends, they won't leave you on a whim. They're going to be there for you, and they should love you for your amazing, unique qualities rather than your role in the group, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's what true friendship
I
is.
totally get that. When I was in school, like, I did not fit in. And everyone that knows me now thinks I was this super popular girl, but I, like, had no friends because I was always just myself. And, like, all these people, like, expected me to be this other person.
Yeah, I was quite the opposite, actually. I was bullied in school because I moved from Russia. I grew up in Australia, but when I moved there, I was about 2 years old and couldn't speak any English. And I was just bullied for being stupid, they called me in school. Actually, my first English word, I came home and it was stupid. My mother bawled her eyes out crying. And you know, that was really hurtful. The kids thought that just because I couldn't speak the same language as them. I actually wasn't stupid. I was very good at maths, guys, you know. Not joking. But so I realized that when I was younger, I would do anything, you know, to try to not be different and to fit in so that there was no reason for people to pick on me from that bullying. But the irony is that as I got older and now, and especially now in particular, honestly, I'd rather be different. You have to be different in this day and age. In business, it helps in meeting people, and even at work, it helps you stand out. It does so many other benefits. So today I honestly play it up and, you know, have fun being different. For example, with my Australian accent, living in Miami, there's not many Australians here. And I just get heaps creative with doing things differently, over-exaggerate a little bit. Mate, how you going? She's got a really good Australian accent as well, Emily over here. Maybe let's show everyone.
I'm not sure about that.
We'll get her to talk Australian soon.
One day, maybe one day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about having fun, and just remember, like, your life isn't set in stone. You can change anything you want at any moment, and all you have to do that, you don't need resources, you don't need anything. All you have to do is begin. You know, anytime you spend regretting missed opportunities or missed moments, it just allows you less time to enjoy the things that are presenting themselves to you right now, you know, the beautiful things that are right here in front of you in this moment. And then next they'll be gone, you know, so don't waste your time doing that. All right, so moving on to the spiritual area of life, because we're running out of time. Emily, in an Australian accent. Give us a little bit of a, come on.
She's funny.
Give us a little bit of
But anyway, so listen, the spiritual area of life, why does it apply to our self-worth? You know, the underlying and often most unspoken assumption presented in self-help material is that we as humans are somehow flawed, right? And that we need to be fixed. You know, the notion often presented is that we need to somehow put forth a lot of effort in order to change ourselves.
Yeah, you hear a lot of talk about things like willpower and motivation and hustle and hard work.
Yeah, but you also hear more subtle things like the importance of changing your self-image. You know, while all these things are useful to a certain extent, they don't really bring us closer to the true and permanent inner peace that we desire and deserve.
Yeah, for sure. And why is that?
So, I feel like it's because of this assumption hidden within all these ideas. That is, happiness is found somewhere in the future. You know, they say that we need to first change something about ourselves before we can be happy. But, like, while I do believe that making the effort to change our lives and move in a more positive direction is a wonderful thing, I also see the misery that it causes people. You know, people who are stuck in this belief that says, I need to do more, have more, become more, because deep down I believe that I am not good enough as how I am currently.
Yeah, that's so true. Can you see how easily that can become a vicious trap?
No, it's terrible. You get caught in a cycle of I'm not good enough as I am, and
herein lies the problem, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we've been fed so many beliefs from families and peers and society that say it's all about always striving for more and more and more. But, like, you know, we're still always grasping for something that we don't have yet. It's an incessant craving for satisfaction in things outside of ourselves.
Yeah, and yet, like, if you look around you, very few people are actually satisfied.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The truth is, using the spiritual area of life, you can actually access this power now. You know, the reason for so much of our unhappiness, self-destruction, is ultimately that we're searching for fulfillment in all the wrong places.
That's so true. You'll find everything that you truly desire by focusing on searching for it, like, within yourself. Well, let's go through some of these spiritual practices that you can apply to help increase your self-worth.
Okay, so one of my favorites is the spiritual practices and disciplines to move into a full awareness of your real self. That's a mouthful.
The fact remains that you're already perfect, right? The only problem is that you don't recognize it yet. Yeah. So for this reason, I want to discuss some very simple but transformative spiritual practices and disciplines that will help you gradually move into full awareness of your best lifing self.
Absolutely. So you can tame your mind. You know, the first steps towards greater awareness is taming the mind. Right now, your mind is probably like a wild animal.
It's so
Even
true.
if you are earnest in your pursuit of spiritual, like, realization, your mind will tend to sabotage you over and over again if you don't tame it first. You know.
Yeah, and definitely another one is making the unconscious conscious. And so what do I mean by that? Many of the thoughts that sabotage us are buried deep inside the unconscious mind, meaning that we're not even aware that the thoughts exist, right? So the only way to eliminate these self-sabotaging thoughts is to bring them into the forefront of your conscious mind and then just surrender them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the easiest way to do this, I have found, is to do the daily journaling.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. You spend 10 minutes a day just writing down everything that comes to your mind and make time for that every single day. The key is, though, to write those without judging your thoughts or stopping the flow of writing for any reason. You just brain to page, I like to call it. When you get into this flow state, your unconscious thoughts start to, come up to the surface. Some of them might be very disturbing, but don't judge them, though. That's not what you're here to do. Your job is to simply write them down. And after they're on that paper, you can see them for what they are. They're only thoughts with no real meaning except and unless you give them meaning.
I love that.
Same. It's so good. It helped me so much for sure. So you can just leave it at that, or you can even go one step further and take that sheet of paper with all these thoughts and let it go. Go outside and burn it. I wrote about this in my book as well. I had a lot of anger towards, when my dad passed away. And so I wrote down all of those thoughts, and I went to his grave at the cemetery and I actually burnt that paper. And it was just such a releasing feeling. This is a symbolic representation of surrender, and it can greatly facilitate the process of letting those thoughts go forever. I actually learned that from my psychiatrist that I was seeing back in Australia, so it's very useful.
So another thing that I want to mention is that we need to realize while we're journaling or saying, our affirmations, we need to only commit to thoughts of unconditional love.
I love that.
Right? So the mind is often a trap. You get sucked into a deep, dark hole. That's how I like to call it. Mm-hmm. But it can also be a gateway. Spiritual realization can happen through the mind only when the mind is purified. So, in order to purify your mind, you must commit to thinking only the most kind and loving thoughts towards all of life, including yourself. This commitment will bring up the opposite. Hate and judgmental thoughts will become more apparent when you commit to unconditional love.
Love that.
Yeah, but this is a good thing. Remember, the unconscious thoughts must first become conscious before they can be surrendered.
That's exactly right. Negative thoughts are totally normal. We're all going to have them. They're never going to disappear forever. But you do have to just identify them. It's a normal human condition, but we don't have to hang on to them. Mm-hmm. So if we're spiritually committed, we can purify our minds and use our loving thoughts as a gateway to very high levels of spiritual awareness and eventually permanent inner peace.
Love it.
That's the goal.
So something else that I really love to do is to meditate daily. Meditations are very, very powerful, and I feel like underestimated.
Oh, for sure.
Practice. It brings up extraordinary benefits. The ultimate purpose of meditation is to transcend the hold of the ego and merge into awareness of your higher self. When first beginning a meditation practice, it will become very apparent how identified you are with your ego self. Yeah, sitting in a quiet room in solitude will make you very, very aware of all your mental chatter going on. You will most likely be able to clearly recognize that you have been living most of your life dominated by this mental haziness.
Yeah, it's no wonder you're not happy, right? Meditation is very simple. And a lot of people get scared of meditating. I've heard so many people go, I can't meditate. Every time I've tried, there's just too much going on in my head. And that's exactly the whole point. That's what you're practicing on. Emily, can you learn how to play the guitar in a day? Mm-mm. What about how to play a new sport?
I don't know. I'm a pretty fast learner.
Well, it's totally normal that you're not going to get meditation in a day. And often it's going to take practice like anything else. So be patient with yourself. There really is nothing that you actually need to do except just sit alone in a quiet place and just remain aware of what's going on and what's happening in your mind. Watch the thoughts fly by like they're clouds in the sky. Watch how your mind gets caught up on one and then it leads to another and, into 1,000 other thoughts. And just see the craziness. This is a huge step forward. All that's going on in there can be controlled. Before you might have thought that your mental chatter was normal. Now you can see that it's quite insane. This is going to intensify your desire to free the mind and the power that it has over you, I guess, once and for all. Mm-hmm. Another helpful meditation technique is to simply focus on something specific, such as a spot on the wall. So you can do it with your eyes open, or you can look at the back of your eyelids. It's up to you. And you just inhale and exhale and focus and count your breath. Or a mantra or affirmation of some kind is also helpful. This gives the mind a job, and it just makes the task of quieting the mind a little bit easier. Creating those gaps is super important. And then one that I really do, like if I'm scattered or in a hurry and, my brain's just really not getting to that place where I want to go. So you could just listen to some beautiful meditation music, or even a guided meditation. So I love doing Esther Hicks, Eckhart Tolle meditations. But if you go on YouTube and, do a morning meditation or a night meditation before bed, you'll find heaps of content on there, right? Like, there's never a shortage. Just use those suggestions, and remember, you are perfect, you are whole, and you are complete, and you're loved. And soon you're going to be able to love yourself even more than you ever did before, or more than you can imagine also.
I love that.
And so the last one we've got is the vocation. No, not the last one. I think it's like the second last one, right?
I think there might be 3 more.
Oh, gosh. We're going really slow today. So the vocational area of life. I guess the most important thing that you need to know here is that your job or your career, it does not define your self-worth. If you're not doing your dream right now, or if you think you're not doing your dream right now, the truth is you actually are. You're learning the skills that are going to help you eventually in your dream when you get there. So those skills could include discipline, could be like hands-on skills, and even just the ability to potentially stay focused and do well in things that you might not necessarily enjoy. One thing that I always love to say is that one day, even your dream will become a job. So you do need those skills of discipline. And what I mean by that is, even if you are finally there living that dream, like my dream is this Best Lifing company, there's still going to be things that you don't enjoy. The side of Best Lifing that I love is these podcasts or coaching people, the classes that we do. But mate, you think I really like doing Excel spreadsheets and going through emails and dealing with suppliers? Of course not. But because of the years that I put in, that has been able to give me the discipline to stay focused and keep grinding and keep doing it. So what about for people who have lost their job? What do you think about that, Emily? What could they do?
On the other side, you may have potentially lost your job recently, maybe due to COVID. I know I lost one of my jobs due to COVID. And yeah, while you can lose your job, you can never lose the abilities within yourself that gave you the reason as to why you got that job in the first place.
Absolutely.
Right?
I love it.
So I love this concept for so many reasons. It helps you to detach yourself from all those external things like your career and your relationship status. Instead, it promotes the idea that the abilities, qualities, and strengths within you are what define you, not your career.
Perfect. Because, you lose your job, you can always go and rebuild that house, can't you?
Mm-hmm. When I was younger in the workplace, I used to always be self-conscious about my age and position or title or level or whatever in different jobs.
Yeah, same. And thinking this way didn't just affect me negatively. When I was at the beginning of my career, like it affected all the people around me too. And instead, this thought process was so detrimental to me as I was growing. Even now, it's easy for me to compare myself to others, but I choose not to. Just because someone's doing something doesn't mean that they're better than me. It doesn't mean that they're more capable than me. It doesn't mean anything. My self-worth is not affected by what somebody else is doing, or how much they're earning. If someone's earning more money than you, or they've, made their passion their career or their job, that doesn't mean that you're any less. And you can always look for people like that and ask them for help. Successful people usually like to help people. So ask them for tips and get advice from them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the next area of life that we are going to discuss is the financial area of life.
Oh, for sure. Self-worth should never be determined by the status of your bank account, right?
No, absolutely not. Often we think about how much money we have in the bank defines our self-value, but in reality, it's the complete opposite.
But the important thing to know is that your net worth is affected by your self-worth, right? So let me just make that clear. Not your self-worth affected by your net worth, but your net worth will always be affected by your self-worth. And why is that? Because if you don't believe that you can get more money, then you just won't get it, you know? The reality is that our perception of ourselves and how worthy we think we are has a direct correlation with our net worth. In other words, net worth is affected by self-worth. So one way to increase your self-worth is to purposely put yourself in like uncomfortable situations. So, you know, if you're afraid of negotiating, go get yourself into situations where, you know, you've got the opportunity to ask for more money. It will be terrifying at first, but over time, you begin realizing how powerful acting that way can be. So yeah, for both your confidence and your checkbooks, it's a win.
You know, the other thing is you need to start saving and invest in yourself. Like, think about it. If you don't invest in yourself, why would anyone else?
That's so right.
Right?
I always like to say you should be saving at least 10% of your income. Because if you've got no money in the bank account, and I know this is going to sound a little bit harsh, but like you don't want to put money aside for yourself. Like number one, you're setting yourself up for failure with no money in the bank account. Something like COVID happens. I know a lot of us, and I know a lot of people firsthand, like really struggled, and they're waiting on other people or the government, whatever, to bail them out. But the reality, and I was definitely one of these people 10 years ago too, mate, so don't worry, I'm not judging it. But, you know, I was just so grateful that I'd learned those lessons, and this year, you know, I wasn't suffering as much because I had taken the time to invest in myself. When something like that happens, life is much easier. You know, you shouldn't rely on anybody else to bail you out of things. You should be investing in yourself. And also invest in your financial future and educate yourself. People who I know who are financially successful have spent some money on learning about that, like learning how to save and invest, or learning about cryptocurrency, or whatever it is that interests you. You really need to go down and follow that path. Because if you don't value yourself and you don't want to pay yourself, why should anybody else value or pay you? Like, it's a bit of an unfair expectation, right?
It really is, absolutely.
And then the last one's social.
Yeah, we made it. All right, so listen, the people you surround yourself with have an enormous impact on your self-worth.
For sure.
You know, another way we can boost our self-worth is through building connections with other people, which is, you know, forming and maintaining satisfying relationships. It helps us to feel good about ourselves.
100%.
Right? A common way of doing this for many people around the world is through social networking sites.
Oh, social networking. Let's talk about that.
You know, there's a growing number of studies exploring how we do this online and how it has on our self-worth.
Yeah, talk about Facebook.
Or Instagram. You know, one common way on Facebook is to share status updates, you know, which we hope that our friends will like and comment on. But when our friends don't respond to our updates, it negatively impacts how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah, well, let me just add one thing to that. Sometimes, you know, depending on where you are and what you're doing, like the algorithm isn't even showing your friends necessarily, or time of day or whatever. Like the algorithm might not even be showing your friends. So how can you allow it to affect, you know, your opinion or your vision of your self-worth? It's crazy, right? So what's important is, you know, to build a healthy and positive social circle. That's what's really going to make a difference. So let's talk about 5 things that you can do.
Okay, so the first one is you can embrace your self-worth and your differences.
Exactly. You're different. That's normal.
Absolutely.
We want that.
You know, you can focus on quality over quantity.
Yeah, like you said before.
Yeah, it's something that I preach.
You don't need a lot of friends. You just need a few good ones.
Yeah, and don't waste your time on someone who doesn't even want to give you their time.
Another thing to know is that it's not all about you. A lot of the time we have to make sacrifices and potentially do things that we don't want to do, you know, to please our friends. But you don't want to take that to an extreme where you're doing stuff that's not aligned with what you want. That's very important. But you know, you got to think about other people. And it's not all about you, your self-worth. It's about spreading that love and joy onto everyone else too.
Yeah.
We want to get rid of dead weight. So there's the top 5 people. The top 5 people that you surround yourself with are going to be the average person that you are. And actually the top 5 people that you surround yourself with, you actually earn the average of those people too. So big impact there. If they're not adding value to your life, if they don't make you happy or you're not having fun, if it's not a positive adjective that describes your friendship with them, you got to cut these people off.
Absolutely.
I like to evaluate how I feel after doing something, right? Does it energize you or does it drain you? Like when I hang out with Emily, I'm energized, mate. But then there's other people, sometimes you hang out with, and it might be compulsory. You might have to go to a meeting or something with one of those drain vacuum cleaner people, negative energies. But
Negative Nancy.
yeah, you got to get in and out, You just got to try and get that meeting done as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
And get on to shifting your vibe. What's the last one?
Thing, seek out people you admire.
Yes.
Surround yourself with people that you look up to, people that you want to learn from, people who will help you grow and be the best version of yourself.
For sure. Because watching those people and spending time with them, just doing that is already going to make you better, right? So true. Well, so that kind of covers, 7 areas of life and, how we apply that with self-worth, or how self-worth sort of fits into all of that. And so the way that we sort of bridge this together is just knowing that your self-worth helps you understand where you are, where you want to be in life. And then this essentially gives you the ability to add the ing into your best life. So these best lifing principles can be applied in any area of life. In terms of your self-worth, the process is exactly the same. It's about finding out where you're at, where you want to be, and creating a plan to get there.
But then, of course, all the action lies in the execution. One point I'd really like to emphasize is that it's super important for your plan to be fun and enjoyable for you. It's the journey. So the plan needs to be one you're going to love doing. It won't take you won't do it if you hate it. And you'd probably give up, right?
For sure. So often I see people, create plans that they hate. Like they'll say, I want to lose weight. And they might hate going to the gym, for example. But, in their New Year's resolution, they're like, well, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. And guess what happens? How long you reckon till they quit, Emily?
Probably pretty fast.
Yeah, way before Feb. If you say like I want to lose weight, and you don't like the gym, that's fine. The gym isn't the only way to lose weight. You can go play tennis. You can go do yoga. Eating better is going to be a component of that. Obviously, you can do so many other things in different sports rather than totally focusing on the gym because that's what you've been told to do or that's what you read in a blog or a podcast, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So what does self-worth really look like? So if you want to understand, I've achieved it, here's what it looks like.
So for me, one of my favorite things that I think it looks like is it's prioritizing your dreams and making an effort to do things that inspire and light you up.
Yeah, it's saying no to the things that you don't agree with or that don't fit into your plans. It's deciding to spend time with the people who support you, encourage and motivate you to be the best version of yourself. It's owning your thoughts and opinions and refusing to be swayed in order to please other people.
It's being gentle with and talking kindly and sweetly to yourself. It's having the courage to try new things that you've always wanted to experience. It's taking time out to nourish your body, soul, and your mind. Exercise, eating well, eating alone.
Alone time in general, yeah.
Eating alone.
Yeah, you can eat alone. It's trusting your intuition and it's honoring your own truth. And it's spending money on things that make you feel amazing, not things to impress people. There's nothing wrong with buying a Gucci bag as long as you're doing that because it makes you happy, not because you want other people to think that you're someone that you're not or you're rich and successful, right?
Yeah. It's daring to believe that you're capable of achieving and creating a life that you visualize. It's choosing to see the good and refusing to let others bring you down. It's gifting yourself forgiveness and accepting yourself.
Yeah, I love it. And you got to accept all of your beautiful and not so cool quirks and qualities too. That's all a part of it. You are one whole amazing human. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us.
If you enjoyed the Best Lifing Show and you want to get in touch,
You can find and follow us on all social platforms or visit our website, bestlifing.com.
Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review.
Till next time, mates.
Stay blessed and best lifing.